Oshkosh Media is government programming on GovTV, community programming on Life TV, and community radio on Oshkosh FM 101.9.
Welcome to the City Manager's Report, a look at city updates and a preview of the next Oshkosh Common Council meeting agenda.
Hello and welcome to the City Manager's Report. I'm your host, Andy Radig, joined by your City Manager for the City of Oshkosh, Mark Roloff. Mark, thanks for being here.
Great to be here, Andy.
Thanks. We'll talk about some municipal news updates in today's first half of the program, and then in the second half we'll come back and talk about some agenda highlights from the upcoming Tuesday, September 22nd Common Council meeting. And just to note that there will be a change of venue for that meeting. It'll be held at the Oshkosh Convention Center, and we'll talk about the reason for the venue change a little bit later in the second half of the show. So Mark, we have a lot of different topics today. We recently had a ribbon cutting event for a new training tower for the Oshkosh Fire Department.
Yeah, it was a real exciting event. Certainly we were happy to have the dedication ceremony, and Chief Stanley had some great things to say about it. It took place on September 12th, and it started with, they call it, the ribbon cutting for a fire department is actually a hose uncoupling. So It's kind of a neat little twist on it and everything.
Sure.
But Chief Stanley had a lot of great things to say about that. We're real excited about the prospect for the training tower to get started, so we can get some training done right in town for a lot of our employees.
Right. And we did have a crew there covering the event, and so we also were able to get some commentary from Chief Stanley, if we might be able to take a look at that.
We really want a place where we can do recruits and incumbent firefighter training. So as we hire new firefighters, that we need to train them to make sure that they're up to the Oshkosh Fire Department and the national standards and certification levels. So we provide their initial training. And then we've got to do continuing training. So what we see in the future is having classrooms out here, having more props for different things to train on, like hazardous material response, more ability to do firefighting, search and rescue training, to have a full facility for our training staff, that they can run their recruit academies here rather than having to do our academies somewhere else, in partnership with other fire departments or other training centers, because we just don't have that resource. So we really want to be on the cutting edge of ability and capability here in the Oshkosh Fire Department. This will help us get there.
So Mark, it looks like a very useful facility, kind of unique actually. Do you know a little bit about how this might be used?
Well, the training tower is just one aspect of the whole facility. So enjoy the time-lapse photograph here of it getting put together. How it'll be used is there are a lot of different situations that our fire department will come across, especially when you have a multi-story structure. Doing window rescues, things like that. You're going to see that there are window frames that are built in there. So especially when we're doing recruit school, right now they're literally training along the roof of one of the fire stations that doesn't simulate a building as well as this training tower will. Now, even though this doesn't have all the wall structure, it does have the bone structure that they can simulate many different building scenarios pretty easily. And so that's really what the value of this facility will be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, it's interesting to take a look at that video, and that is posted on the Oshkosh Media YouTube channel. So if you'd like to take a look again at that time lapse, which is actually pretty interesting to look at, you can check it out there, and the entire ribbon cutting event also.
Yeah, a lot of people, if you want to go take a look at it, it's over on Sawyer Street by National. That site was chosen because it was a former National Guard Armory, which is essentially a training facility. Eventually this will become a training facility, but we have some city operations storage in there, and we're going to need to find a place for them to go before we start getting things all settle up in there. So we're looking forward to that. And then, why do we do that? I think the chief talked about this to a certain degree, but it'll actually help save us money, because whenever we had to do this type of training outside the city, our folks couldn't do that on their regular time because they need to be in Oshkosh and responding to calls and everything. So we would have to have people come in on their days off, get paid overtime. This way, they'll be able to just take their unit, their crew from a fire station, locate it there, and if there's a call, they can just drop everything at the training tower, go to a call, and then come on back. So it'll be very efficient for us, and it'll save the taxpayers quite a bit of money over the years.
A much more efficient setup. It's a great resource to have here in Oshkosh. Another topic we're taking a look at today is the Jackson Street Corridor and Safety Study. And there are a couple of areas that's concerned with, but we've been talking about this for a little while.
It is, and it's really two studies in one. Part of the area is Murdoch Avenue to Interstate 41, and that's really more of a land use issue that we've been talking about. So the consultant has done some reports on that. The one that I think residents, particularly local residents, are most concerned about is that area from Church Avenue to Murdoch Avenue. And the consultant has prepared a report, and as you can see here, this is the section of Jackson Street. It's in two sections there, from Church Avenue to New York Avenue. And the consultant is recommending a series of options about whether you give a road diet to this area. And the phases are, you may want to do this in two phases, with Church to New York being the first phase. You can see what a road diet would look like there. Basically, one lane in each direction rather than the two lanes right now. The second half of this part, south of Murdoch, is New York to Murdoch Avenue itself. And the phase-in approach suggests that we don't do any changes north of New York Avenue immediately, and then maybe go to a road diet later on to see how it works south of New York Avenue. There's also a recommendation or an option that we do the entire area in a road diet from Church to Murdoch. And so we're going to have a meeting with the public. It's going to be September 21st at 5:30 p.m. We've sent out invitations to people. Virtual participation is encouraged, but there's an in-person option also available. And I know a lot of the residents along this corridor want to give some input to it, and we want to welcome that.
And you mentioned about a road diet. Are there any drawbacks with that type of format of a road design?
Well, particularly in this area that's so highly residential, there's a lot of advantages. It will slow down traffic. There's no doubt about it. But one of the concerns, and I think the thing that everybody's going to have to wrestle with, is that when you reduce it from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, 1 lane in each direction, that means that all the traffic will be concentrated on 1 lane in each direction, and cars that need to pull out of their driveways onto Jackson Street, that'll make it a little more difficult. So that's the balancing act that you have to go through when you're looking at those things. It's certainly an advantage to slow down traffic, and I know the residents there would like to see the traffic slowed down, but there is a trade-off for it, and the residents are going to have to give that some thought as they provide input to the council.
Okay, very good. And again, that meeting is coming up on Monday, September 21st at 5:30 p.m. There's more detail available on the Planning Services webpage that can be found there on the city's website. You can get those maps that we showed a little bit earlier. You can take a look at those and just the whole design area. So there's a lot more detail there on the city's website.
And that one will also be at the convention center to accommodate a crowd.
That's right, at the Oshkosh Convention Center on Monday evening. Mark, it's getting into election season, as if anybody didn't realize that already. So we have some absentee ballots that are going to be mailed out, if not very soon here, by the city clerk's office.
Right. Now that the ballots have been finalized with the courts, there were some challenges. Now the city clerk will be mailing them out. If you've already made your request to request a ballot, within the next few days, the city clerk will be mailing those out to you. And you can, of course, mail them back, or you can also, if you feel more comfortable, just dropping it off at City Hall. We have a drop box right in front of City Hall for many things, But right now, this is a season for people to drop off their ballots. So we want to encourage people to do that if possible.
And I think that's a good point, Mark, that the drop box can be used for multiple purposes, and absentee ballots, as the sign says there, is one of them. So there also have been some recent, I should just mention real quick too, that in-person absentee voting will be taking place at City Hall also October 20th through the 30th. So people do have that option as well.
Yeah, people can do that. The state law only allows us to be open for 2 weeks for that purpose. But if that's an option you want to choose, we certainly welcome you to do that. But I think mail-in is still the most effective way right now if you want to avoid crowds and everything. You don't want to go on election day.
Right.
It can get a little crowded at City Hall too. I don't want
Sure.
to discourage people, but just be aware of that. You might just be better off requesting the mail-in ballot. But if you forget about doing that and then it's getting close to the election, it's probably a good option to go to City Hall. Just look for a time when it's less busy.
Sure. And there have been some polling places that have changed locations fairly recently. District 4 is one of them that moved from Webster Stanley School to the Oshkosh Public Library. That's pictured there, District 4. Also, District 15 moved from Whitman Regional Airport to the Hilton Garden Inn due to construction. And District 9 was recently approved as a change from the Alberta Kimball Auditorium to Father Carr's place to be Mother Teresa Center.
Yeah, and those, if you're regularly voting, you may have already seen the move to the library and the Hilton Garden Inn. The move from Oshkosh West Kimball Auditorium is just recently. But if you haven't voted since 2016, you need to know that. So
Okay.
we want to get that information out.
Okay. And the website myvote.wi.gov has a lot of information for you regarding voting.
And now that the ballots have been finalized, if you haven't already put in your request to get an absentee ballot, do it as soon as possible now, because now we can turn those around almost immediately. So once we get it, our goal is to process it the day we receive it, and the quicker you get it in, the better.
Good information. Mark, the DNR had a positive response to a recent wastewater utility report.
Yeah, there's a periodic report. It's called the Compliance Maintenance Annual Report, and the council receives that report and takes a look at it. And the DNR comments were very positive. You don't get to see the sewer treatment plant, and a lot of people don't care to see the sewer treatment plant. But it's one of those things. We do a very good job and rate very highly. A lot of this with the investment we've done. We've got a lot of good procedures in place, so we're very pleased with that process.
Very good. And also recently, the Wisconsin Policy Forum had a pretty positive report also with regards to the fund balance that the city is carrying.
This is our general fund balance, and it's really interesting because the council just approved revisions to our fund balance policy, but we were getting this report from the Wisconsin Policy Forum even before council did that. I think that demonstrates that we're continuously looking for ways to improve. The new fund balance policy says if our fund balance is too high, then the council will look for ways maybe to use that fund balance to reduce debt. But we're real proud of this chart that shows that of the 10 largest cities in the state, we have the second highest fund balance as a percent of our general fund budget. So we're real pleased and proud of that. That was something that council wanted to do. It will help improve our standing for debt management, and it's nice to be recognized by a nonpartisan group such as the Wisconsin Policy Forum.
Okay, thanks for that information. Upcoming change, actually effective September 14th it was, there's a change to a GO Transit route number 6. So just wanted to make a quick note about that. We have a graphic that illustrates that route somewhat there. So you can always monitor GO Transit's Facebook page and their other social media outlets, as well as their webpage for all the details on any route changes.
Yeah, this part of Route 6 is just immediately south of Oshkosh West High School. So
Correct.
there's some utility things going on there that we needed to move things around. So yeah, just check the website. You'll get the information. You'll still get to your destination on time. Thanks to Go Transit for making that accommodation.
Okay. And just another quick note, too, that we currently have a Polco survey that is out there for trick or treat, looking for feedback from residents regarding trick or treat.
Yeah, it's not that we're suggesting that we're not going to be doing trick or treating. I think that it would be virtually impossible. But looking for ideas about how it could be done. If there's any suggestions or concerns people have, that maybe we can take a look at that. And if we want to make any adjustments to encourage people to do things a little differently, we want to know that. So
Sure.
We're out there on the prowl for that information. So give us some input. We'd appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that survey will be open for several weeks. We're also still have a survey open for community equity and inclusion that actually wraps up very shortly here. So take a look at Polco. You can visit the city's website for a link to Polco under the services menu at the top of the screen. So, Mark, it looks like we're at time to take a short break here. And so we'll be back right after this quick break to talk about some agenda highlights from the upcoming Tuesday, September 22nd Common Council meeting. Stay tuned.
The American Red Cross urgently needs blood and platelet donations and asks all healthy donors to schedule an appointment to give now. With the coronavirus outbreak, it is important to maintain a sufficient blood supply. Your blood donation is critical and can help save lives. Please schedule an appointment today. Download the Blood Donor app, visit redcrossblood.org, or call 1-800-RED-CROSS today. You can make a difference.
Holding a phone takes precious attention away from the road. That's why handheld cell phone use is now illegal in Wisconsin work zones, and fines start at $40. Driving deserves your undivided attention. It's about safety for workers and for all motorists. So when you see orange cones, please put down the phone. The Wisconsin DOT urges you to help us achieve 0 deaths on Wisconsin roads.
And welcome back to the City Manager's Report. I'm your host, Andy Radig, here with City Manager Mark Roloff. And we're going to take a look at some agenda highlights from the upcoming Tuesday, September 22nd Common Council meeting. And there is a change of venue for this meeting. This will be held at the Oshkosh Convention Center. Mark, maybe if you can give us a little insight as to why the venue change for this meeting.
Well, as you're aware, Andy, we had a consideration of a masking ordinance prior to the governor's order, statewide order, and we had a sizable crowd. So in anticipation of that crowd, we want to be respectful of the need to keep people socially distant. Our council members' quarters are pretty small, so we're moving over to the convention center, and I think that's appropriate for this issue.
Okay, and just so folks know, that meeting will be televised live on GovTV as usual, despite the change in venue. Mark, I understand too it's basically an intent to change behavior is more or less the mask ordinance. What's behind it?
And I think that's what the intent of the governor's order was.
Yeah.
Our proposed ordinance, we've revamped it slightly from how it was originally introduced. We wanted to very closely mirror what the governor's executive order was, so that there's continuity should council pass this. Okay. And the idea is that the facts are out there that the masks help reduce the spread of COVID-19, and with the numbers up in this area, that's even more important. So we've got to take a look at that. Certainly, the real issue is that, does council want to create a regulation for it? I think the science is there that it will help. The question is, do we require it? Not everybody's going to require it, but the council said if it looked like the governor's order was looking like it was going to be overturned or expire, to please bring it back. So that's why we're putting it on the agenda. If the state were to do something and extend the mask order for whatever reason, then we wouldn't do anything. We would just follow what the state did. But we're doing it as a preemptive measure because I think council wants to have that discussion about whether they want to continue requiring masks. But it really is, like you said, Andy, it's more about trying to change people's behavior to wear the mask as a habit. It's not a pleasant habit. I don't blame anybody for complaining about masks. I complain about them too, but they have proven to be very successful.
Okay, very good. And prior to the meeting on Tuesday, there will be a 5 p.m. workshop, also at the same location there at the Convention Center, on affordable housing.
Yeah, the council had asked us to take a look at the issue of affordable housing, and the consultant's report will be shared with council. Essentially, the issues are that we hear a lot of things about low-income housing, and I think the consultant's doing a very good job of saying low-income housing is different from what's called very low and extremely low income housing. And we have a shortage of very low and extremely low income housing, but not necessarily what's classified as low income housing. And there are federal definitions for that. And the consultant's going to explain that. We actually have a surplus of low income housing. It's the very low and extremely low that we have a problem with. On the other end, we also have a shortage of higher end housing. And as economics go, generally higher end housing also helps pay for any demands at lower income housing, extremely low or very low. So we need something at both ends, and that's really what you're going to hear.
Okay, all right. And then in the actual council meeting agenda itself, we have an agenda item, the development of Lakeshore Park. And this is still the early phases of this, I understand.
Yeah, we've already got a general guide, a general outline of what we were looking for from a visioning standpoint, but now this is actually to do some development plans, real specific plans. More likely than not for the eastern side of Lakeshore Park. We have $2 million left from the proceeds of selling a portion of Lakeshore Golf Course. So now we have new Lakeshore Park, and this is just to get started on that initial development for some of the things over on the east side. And as we get additional funds, we'll look at making other improvements to this park. But I'm excited about it.
Yeah, excited to see all the improvements over there. There's a lot to come. And then we have an agenda item coming up also talking about sanitary and storm sewer main and lateral. And this is some capital improvements preparation, I understand. Yeah,
both items that we're going to talk about here are related to our 2021 capital improvement program. The first one is for the sewer main and lateral televising with Speedy Clean. That we go through our sewers that we're going to be looking at next year and see if there's any problems with those sewers before we start digging up. You can do that and you get a very good idea of what kind of condition they're in. So that's one of them. And then the other one is just some general checking out the condition of the soil, subsurface exploration and geotechnical engineering. Total, those two projects are about $200,000, but you really can't get those projects started unless and until you have that type of information available. So we're getting on that now because we'll start into the design phase over the course of the winter so that we can start bidding those out early in the spring next year.
Okay, very good. Then there's also an item coming up that relates to employee health insurance and renewing some agreements.
We have several agreements that we're looking at renewing. The first one is for the continuation of the Three Waves Health Clinic and Wellness Center. A few years ago, the city of Oshkosh, Winnebago County, and the Oshkosh Area School District created a clinic for our employees, and this has enabled us to save hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of these years. And that's just the city savings. That doesn't include what Winnebago County or the Oshkosh Area School District are saving. And the idea is that a clinic for some basic services and some wellness activities that saves us money on health insurance because we take care of those things before an employee or their family member needs to go see a doctor. So it's a very cost-effective way and other communities are doing it because of the success that we've experienced.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then that also relates to some other health insurance and dental insurance as well. Those are separate items here.
Yeah, our health insurance is due for renewal, so we're proposing to renew with Robin Health Partners. That's our current plan. And then we're looking at, and that's a 7% increase, which in this market is actually okay, but we've got to keep our eye on that. We've done very well in the last few years, so with everything going on with COVID, I'm not surprised at a little bump there. And then our dental insurance is going to have no increase. We're looking at going to a self-insured plan, which we think for our employees will be more cost effective. It'll be more cost effective for us as an employer providing that benefit. So we're excited that we're constantly looking for ways to save on health insurance and dental insurance because it's a costly benefit, and we want to be able to look at the taxpayer in the eye and say we're doing everything we can to keep those costs down. Okay, very good. Those items will be coming up on the agenda there as well. And then we have another item dealing with the a stipulation approval with Fox Valley Pro Basketball. And can you give us some insight into this? Well, as a lot of people are aware, Fox Valley Pro Basketball had filed for bankruptcy, and there are a lot of things going on. The court has approved a plan for them to continue operating. This agreement doesn't hold up that court order. That's all really separated. Okay. There were issues that we needed to work through that we're going to continue to provide and execute the agreement as we agreed to. But we had some issues related to legal costs associated with enforcing that contract, and we've reached a settlement with Fox Valley Pro Basketball. We're going to recover about $42,000 in legal costs that we think were directly related to us enforcing that. So we've agreed to that, and that's what this agreement essentially says. So it doesn't change anything about what they're doing, so we're happy to help. And you said it's not holding up the bankruptcy recovery plan at all? No, that's independent of us. They didn't need our approval for that, and they've already done that. So we're just a side agreement that we're working on, independent of the bankruptcy court order. Okay. And sort of speaking of things happening at the arena, there's also a special event approval. It's a concert series that's coming up. Yeah, the arena is looking at holding some outdoor drive-in type of concerts. Right. The dates they're proposing are October 9th and 30th. They've got some challenges going on because of COVID. Having indoor events are just not, the in thing. So they're doing the drive-in concert series. We're excited, and the special events permits are getting approved, so they can do that, and we're excited for them. Okay. Then, Mark, we also, under the city manager announcements and statements, there is some training, diversity, equity, and inclusion training for employees, I understand? The council, as part of their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, included some funds for training for our employees to become more aware and familiar and sensitive to issues about diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is independent of the committee that was created by the council. Okay. That's going to have a little more of an external focus, but they want to know and they're interested in that we're doing some things internally. And we've been talking about that for a number of years, and this finally gets us off the ground. So we're going to be holding training with departments, both management all throughout the organization. And I just had an opportunity to meet with the person who's going to be doing the training, very well experienced in this area, and looking forward to having her be part of our team to help us improve our awareness of diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. It really will help benefit the entire community when our employees are more aware. Okay, very good. Well, it looks like that's about what we have on our list today, Mark. And just wanted to remind people that the Common Council meeting is this Tuesday, September 22nd, will be held at the Oshkosh Convention Center. And a reminder as well that virtual participation is also an option for that. You can watch that meeting live on GovTV, which is Spectrum Channel 10, UVerse Channel 99, and streaming on OshkoshMedia.org. Or you can listen to it on Oshkosh FM 101.9, which is also online and on the TuneIn Radio app for mobile devices. You can also catch your
programming on the streaming device that you might have at home, which might be a Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. You can always visit our YouTube channel for government meeting archives and the full library of Oshkosh media programming. Thanks again for watching the City Manager's Report, and we'll be back again in 3 weeks with another new program. Take care, everyone.